I was a late starter. Number one, to be honest, if I could think of any word, it's fear, right? I didn't have the habits, those foundational principles that would lead to financial success. In my household, I was told just get a job and put something away for a rainy day. But I didn't know what that meant. And the word investing wasn't even in our vocabulary in my household. And so I would pay my bills, and after the bills, and it's okay, the bills are paid, let's go have fun with the rest of the money. And that was my lifestyle, even going through college, because no one ever showed me or taught me, or I never thought that it was even possible for me to live a better lifestyle with more income outside of what I earned in my job. They did a study years ago, and there was over $100 million of unclaimed scholarships. Not scholarships that people are applying for and getting denied. There's over $100 million that people just aren't applying for. And I could tell you a number of stories of students who applied for scholarships and they were the only one that applied. Or they didn't apply for scholarships because they didn't think they were going to win. And there might have been 3 people who were supposed to be selected to win the scholarship, but they gave all the scholarships to one person because only one person applied. One of the students we started working with, she ended up with over $500,000 worth of scholarships. Matter of fact, one of the coaches, Nia Grant, she won over $1 million of scholarships. So she won over $1 million in scholarships. And when she graduated college, she graduated from Clemson, she graduated with a 6-figure net worth. So she was able to buy a brand new home after she graduated, and she was able to get so much in scholarship refunds to where she was able to cover her housing with the refunds. And she had enough from the scholarship refunds and paid internships where she had a 6-figure net worth when she graduated college.
Welcome to Catching Up to Fi, a podcast on mindset, money, and life for late starters of any age on their journey to financial independence. I'm Bill, and I'm a late starter.
I'm Jackie, and I'm also a late starter, and we're your host. We're here to help you on your journey to financial independence, no matter where you're starting.
We're going to talk to experts, other late starters, and explore topics related to our mission.
Join us as we catch up to Fi together.
Hello, and welcome back to Catching Up to Fi. Today, we're talking about college. This is the season where people have put in their applications, and then parents and kids are wondering, how do I pay for it? So we got Chris Corinthian on the show. He's an expert in this. He's the FinLit guy, and we're going to talk about this stuff because it's very contemporary. We're going to have Ron Lieber on the show and talk about it as well. We hope that late starters who are wondering how they're going to do this find out that it is possible with non-traditional ways. Jackie, how are you doing, and what do you think?
I am doing great. I'm so excited to have Chris on. You know, we first met Chris at the economy conference that we talk about all the time in Cincinnati, and he's just a wealth of knowledge. So I can't wait to get into it. But before we do that, we love charities. So he had a couple of charities that he really supported. So Chris, tell us about the 2 charities that you really support and why they're important to you.
Absolutely. So the first one is Autism Speaks. That's one of the largest organizations that support resources, advocacy, and you name it for those who either have autism or have children with autism or loved ones that have autism and related disabilities. And my oldest son, Chris Jr., also known as CJ, he's nonverbal and he's on the more severe end of the spectrum. And some of the terms now are neurodivergent and things like that. But he has his challenges. And one of the organizations that really helped in the beginning when learning about the different interventions and resources was Autism Speaks. So that's one. And then number 2, and I can more likely just talk about my story and kind of what led me to this point right now and why this organization is important. And before I name the organization, I can just tell you the backstory. So when I was in my 20s, I was working for a billion-dollar company. I had the corporate job. Everything was going great. I was almost at 6 figures in salary. And prior to that, I was told the path to success is to go to school, get good grades, get a high-paying job, and put something away for a rainy day. That was my whole financial education. And so I got the job. Everything was great. But the day after my son was born, they called me up. I talked to my supervisor, and she said, "Congratulations, Chris. We just heard about your brand new baby boy. Congrats. But unfortunately, we got to let you go."
Ouch.
And so that was the biggest gut punch because this is my first child. I was already anxious, nervous. What am I going to do? Am I going to be a good parent? And so I'd never been fired or let go from a job before. And so I went back to the hospital, I literally broke down on my wife's shoulders because I didn't know what to do. Everything, I had followed the plan, showed up on time, produced, outperformed everyone else, and I was still let go. So I didn't know how that happened. But fast forward a couple months during the layoff, my wife isn't working now. I'm not working. And the girl across the hall in the apartment building we were staying in left the stove on, and the whole building went up in flames. The whole apartment building went up in flames. 24 families displaced. And guess who didn't have renter's insurance? Me. All the money that I had from that job was depleted because there was no savings. All the money was going towards getting baby clothes and all these other things. I had no forecast of a layoff in my future. And so when we lost everything in the apartment fire, Red Cross, which is the second organization that I always want to support and shout from the mountaintops, they gave us a $250 gift card so we can get clothes from Walmart. And we were able to, my wife and I, my son were able to live out of this blue tub. Luckily, my wife's parents cleared out a spare bedroom, and we lived out of that spare bedroom for several months until we were able to get back on our feet and get our own place. But things like that, you remember, right? Especially when your heart is hit, you're at your lowest moment, it's those who support you in those lowest moments that you remember for a lifetime.
We've talked in the past with Shauna Game and other people about trauma, personal and financial trauma, medical debt, divorce. This is life. It happens. There are crises, and financial literacy and pursuing financial health and freedom are what are the backstop to helping you through these traumas. So it's really important, the message we're getting out there. Jackie, let's backstep a little bit because people may not know all that Chris does.
Yeah, let's go ahead and give him a proper introduction. So Chris Corinthian, he's an author, he's a speaker, and an entrepreneur whose passion is to empower others in the areas of personal finance and best strategies for cutting college costs. He talked about this a little bit, but after he experienced a series of financial setbacks, including a layoff and a devastating fire, he realized the importance of financial literacy. So with nearly 20 years of experience in higher education, he's helped thousands of students and parents. He's helped them identify scholarships, optimize savings, and create actionable plans to graduate debt-free. Chris founded Finlit University and Debt Free Degree Academy to educate people on the most important financial principles for students. He is also co-host of PBS's Emmy-nominated series, My Money Mentors. It's designed to make financial literacy enjoyable and empowering for millennials and Gen Z. Beyond the numbers, though, Chris brings a personal touch, sharing his own journey with money, the lessons he learned, and the moments that inspired him to dedicate his career to financial literacy of students. So Chris Corinthian, welcome to Catching Up to Fi.
Yay, thank you for the invitation. We've been waiting on this moment for a long time, and I'm so excited to be here talking with you today.
One thing we want to talk about too is we are now teamed up. We're collaborators. We're involved in a new project. Lynette Calpani-Cox and her husband, Earl, they started the Financial Influencer Network, and we're all collaborating to expand and augment our messages. So at any rate, we're very fortunate to do this. And so the synergy here and working with brands that we want to promote for our listeners, our audience to use, because that's what we use. We have a new deal that we want to talk about that's coming up, but not today. It'll be a big surprise coming up starting December. So anyway, thanks, Lynette. Thanks, Chris. We love working with these guys. There's about 25 to 30 of us that are the foundational people in this. And Jackie, this is going to be fun.
Yeah, it is. And I think the most important thing about the Financial Influencers Network is that we are all speaking the same language of financial literacy. We're in this space, and we are more powerful and we have bigger voices together than individually. That is the thing that is going to be the most important. Yeah. So Chris, I mentioned in the intro about a TV show that I actually really loved, a sort of docu-reality called My Money Matters. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? That must have been pretty fun to do.
Yes, My Money Mentors was It was a bit of breath of fresh air, validation on some of the things that I've been dreaming about or envisioning. And the way it came about was motivating and encouraging. You've heard your gifts will make room for you. This journey of personal finance and understanding it and spreading the truths and the foundational principles that everyone should know, all the things that I did not do growing up, all the things that I had to learn from, is what I wanted to share. And because of this, I decided, hey, why don't I take that leap of faith and just start posting information that's been tested and proven online on social media, because there's so much misinformation out there, right? But I wanted to start by putting information that was research backed out there and showing the best practices as some of the best. I did it, and let me tell you, my first post on social media was so dry and so boring, and I could have given up, but I said, you know what? Let me continue on this path. And because of that, one of the PBS affiliates, WABE, one of the NPR and PBS affiliates, WABE out of Atlanta, saw my post and they said, hey, we're looking someone that's talking about personal finance and paying for college and all of these other different subjects. And we found you on social media. We found you and we want to know if you want to be part of this show. Here's the thing. It was only supposed to be one episode pilot. And then my co-host and I, we did a reading via Zoom, Jacqueline Shattuck, CPA, and we read it. And the vice president of television said, I love the chemistry. I love your energy. Let's just go ahead and take this chance and let's just go ahead and do 4 episodes.
Wow, that's so cool.
We did the 4 episodes. And then after the first 4 episodes, because we ended up doing a whole season, they ended up pitching it to one of the guys at American Public Television to say, hey, we have a show idea for My Money Mentors, and we know you'd love it. He said, we don't need another money show. We've seen it. We're good. He saw it. He saw the pilot. He loved it. And long story short, we ended up doing a full season of 8 episodes, and it was Emmy nominated. So how we went from me almost being afraid to post something, right, and it turning into an Emmy nominated show that reached over 50 million viewers nationwide on PBS.
That's fantastic. Look what happens. There's 6 degrees of separation. You put yourself out there, you make yourself vulnerable, you show that you know what you're doing and that you've learned things potentially as a late starter. And we need to talk about that get magnified through the Fin network, through PBS, through your social channels. And we need to look for responsible people. There's a lot of crap out there, TikTok and whatnot. And you're one of those responsible educators that people can trust. You've been vulnerable, and that breeds trust. Let's circle back a little bit, because you were kind of a late starter and you hit ground zero in your late 20s, early 30s. And we have audience members, they're in their 30s and they didn't utilize their 20s, like the old school fireys that 10 years and done, retired at 30. It doesn't speak to our audience. You can, because you overcame a lot of adversity. But why were you potentially a late starter? What in your childhood did you learn or not learn? And how did your parents mentor you or through school that led you to be relatively financially illiterate, like I was?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I was a late starter. Number one, to be honest, if I could think of any word, it's fear, right? I didn't have the habits, those foundational principles that would lead to financial success. In my household, I was told, just get a job and put something away for a rainy day. But I didn't know what that meant. And the word investing wasn't even in our vocabulary in my household. And then so I would pay my bills, and after the bills, and it's okay, the bills are paid, let's go have fun with the rest of the money. And that was my lifestyle, even going through college, because no one ever showed me or taught me, or I never thought that it was even possible for me to live a better lifestyle with more income outside of what I earned in my job. And so after that layoff in my early 20s, in my mid to late 20s, I ended up starting to work in higher ed. I got back into higher ed, and I found something that I was really good at, that I had worked for years before, and it was safe and secure. And I said, let me just work this job until I retire and don't do anything else. Don't rock the boat, because I don't want to get fired again. My family's depending on me, and I don't need to venture out and take any type of leaps of faith for anything else. Let me just be thankful for my job and not do anything else. Even if I had the skills to be able to create additional income for myself and my family, I didn't want to venture because I was afraid. And because I was a late starter in my early 30s, late 20s, I started looking up different things on how I can save more, how I can learn how to invest. I learned about the stock market and I learned about different index funds, which I didn't even know what an index fund was. And then when I started learning the right things about personal finance, then I was asked to be the financial literacy coordinator at the university that I worked at. Additional training, went to conferences, went to training, and there was so much that I learned that I didn't know before. And I was able to help out that younger generation of students in a way that I was never taught. And because of that, I was able to spread that message much more and much further than anything I could have done before that.
That sounds like a unique position. Is this position common across universities? This sounds really cool, but has this multiplied? Because colleges are still really lax on helping students. I mean, this is the one language that we got to learn. This is the one language that coming out of college, we need to know how to partition our paycheck, set aside 10, 20%, pay ourselves first. But this school was very forward thinking.
Yes, and it was actually a test or a pilot program. I worked at an HBCU, Savannah State University.
Woohoo.
And yeah, my alma mater. And while I was working there, they had specific funding or Title III funding, more specifically, that was able to fund certain projects or activities is what they were called. And if it was a success, then they would send a proposal out to see if it could be funded by the state. And so there were federal funds set aside for different activities. And this department was one of those trial runs, if you will. And so because it worked after the first year, they decided to continue it. And we started partnering with different platforms such as iGrad, which partners with a lot of universities when it deals with personal finance and financial literacy. And there were just so many different resources and activities. And then now you'll see a lot of institutions starting to implement financial literacy or financial wellness in their programming. I just partnered with the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and they have a director of financial wellness there that we co-hosted a workshop for some of their students there a couple weeks ago. And that was fortunate to see that there are schools that are starting to implement financial wellness. And I believe that they're piggybacking off of a lot of the states. There's over 30 states now that have made financial literacy or personal finance a requirement before students graduate high school. So I think a lot of institutions of higher ed are riding that wave and saying, hey, this is definitely important, because now the people that are in these positions see that they didn't have it. And they're like, man, it would be something else if I can go back in time and gain some of this education.
That's right. I want to go ahead and make sure we give an applause to the colleges and universities that do have financial wellness. My graduate degree is from Kansas State. They had something called PowerCat Financial. I was actually one of the counselors there, and I did stuff through that. But not every college and university is doing this. So before you got that financial literacy position at the school, what were you doing before then for the school?
I was a financial aid counselor for many years, and I was able to help students find the money to pay for school. And so that's when I started working with the hundreds and then thousands of students. And the fortunate thing is that I've worked at different types of higher ed institutions. So I worked at the traditional four-year institution, for example, Savannah State. I worked at the online institution for our adult educators or adult learners such as University of Phoenix. And I worked at a local technical college. And so I was able to work with those who weren't necessarily going for those 2-year, 4-year degrees, but working on their certificates, diplomas, and trades, if you will.
Okay, so you have the inside track. And so I could see the jump now from working in the financial aid office, you must have saw a lot coming through that office. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more, because I have a lot of nieces, and usually I don't know if this is right or not, you let me know, but I tell them when they get ready to go to college, first thing they need to do is make a beeline to the financial aid office at the school.
Yes, absolutely.
So you were helping a lot of students out just in that role, and then you moved to the financial literacy.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Everybody was like, Mr. C, we need to see you, Mr. C. I went to my university's homecoming festival. It was a homecoming at our school. And there were so many students over the 14 years that I worked at the last school at Savannah State. And there were so many that came up to me and gave me a hug and talked about how much that I impacted their lives because I helped them through college, helped them finding money for school, helped them through the financial aid process, helped them personally, just impacted their lives in a major way. And you never really know how much impact you've made till they come back and they say, Mr. C, that's what they used to call it. Mr. C, you saved my life in so many ways that I can't even number. I was like, wow.
I am so excited to announce our new partnership at Catching Up to Phi with Monarch. Monarch is a comprehensive financial tool to monitor your financial health and life. I have been using Monarch for 3 years to track my spending, net worth, budget, savings goals, and more. I am not a spreadsheet nerd, and without Monarch's robust, intuitive tools and user interface, this process would have seemed impossible. I was recently also able to seamlessly share my data with our new flat fee financial planner for a retirement readiness checkup when I turned 60. He uses Monarch with all of his clients. After our analysis, I was shocked to find out that we were financially independent 3 years before I thought we would be. You can't manage what you don't measure. Using Monarch was critical in this review and planning process. It remains important in monitoring my ongoing financial health. Thanks to Monarch, all of our podcast listeners and community members have access to a 50% discount off their first year subscription. Simply follow the link below and use the discount code CatchingUp50 at checkout. I am proud to say that my sons are the first to use the code to join the Monarch family. I encourage you to share this link and code with family and friends this holiday season who need or want to take back their money and grow their wealth. I cannot think of a better, more generous or valuable gift or resolution. Happy holidays from all of us at Catching Up to 5. I want to ask you the question, you started from zero at 30, say. Did you become FIRE before you leapt into entrepreneurship, and did that give you the comfort, or did you do that transition before you were truly FI?
I did that transition before I was truly FI, because so maybe about 2 to 3 years before I finally ventured out and went full-time entrepreneur, I started talking about the things that I learned, because I was limited to just the institution I was working at when I was talking about personal finance, financial literacy, and all these different things to help prepare this next generation, or even those who are older, to prepare for the future better financially. And so I started putting content out. And then because of that, I started getting asked to speak virtually and in person at different colleges, or nonprofits started inviting me out. And while I was still there, I was writing my book, Financial Literacy 101 for College Students. And because of that, a lot of nonprofits will get sponsors or business partners to purchase bulk orders of my book. And because I started gaining more money than I was getting in my monthly pay, then I said, hey, there might be something here. I might be able to spread my message to many more people and impact more in such a way than I was just limited to Savannah State or limited to the institution that I was at. And so I decided to just transition that way and start to create a path for myself to where I can do this full time.
So how many years did it take for our late starters for you to get FI from zero?
It took me about 2 years for me to be able to fully transition. I had started putting away money when I was a financial literacy coordinator. So about 7 years I had started the plan, but I didn't know that I was going to be doing this full time. I didn't know that I was going to be getting brand deals. I didn't know I was going to be asked to speak at different conferences and with organizations. I didn't see all of that happening. And then that just sped up the process, or it catapulted me into the position I am now, where I'm able to do this full time. So it was maybe about a year and a half after I left the job that I was able to do it.
So the total journey would have been, what, 10, 12 years?
About 10 years, yes.
Yeah. And that's what Jackie did. And she did it with a traditional corporate job. We're trying to tell our audience, you can do this. You're inspiring our audience to say, okay, I'm going to get out of debt. I'm going to rack up my savings rate. And, I'm in the same boat. I really started around somewhere between 50 to 53, and I'm 7, 8, 9 years into my journey. I didn't start from zero, but I'm already planning for retirement, winding down into pre-retirement, scaling back, hopefully in the next 3 years to part-time, and then transitioning by 65 on time, so to speak, to full retirement. And I just want to say, this journey is possible. All three of us are doing it. I'm the only one really not FI that's still the working stiff, but it's coming. I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We want you to too.
So, Chris, I like that you're representing the entrepreneurial route So I would say you're a lot braver than me, kept with the corporate grind probably for way too long. But entrepreneurship was scary to me and it's scary to a lot of people. But you took that leap of faith or you gave yourself transition time. And I always find it very interesting the day job that you had at Savannah State between financial aid and the financial literacy gig, that helped prime the pump to give you the knowledge and to give you the tools you needed to say, I think I can do some of this myself, or I got some really great ideas that I want to share. And I want our late starters to just think about that because a lot of us, when we're waking up, we're at the peak of our career. And there may be a career shift on the horizon, maybe an entrepreneur endeavor or something like that. But we typically have a decade or more of a professional life of knowledge, skills, and experience that could help us with whatever that next thing is. So how hard was it for you to shift from corporate worker to I'm going to do it on my own? The checks aren't regular. You have to make your own, do your own balance sheet and all that. So just talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I think community has a large part to do with it, right? When you see others who are in this space and doing it in different ways, a lot of times you're like, oh, I've seen stuff online, or that's probably fake, or most likely that will never happen for me. I remember a good friend of mine who was also a Savannah State graduate. She was also in this space. Her name is Raquel Curtis, and she goes by the Bougie Banker online. And she came back because she wanted to speak at Savannah State. She understood that I was over the financial literacy program, and then I was over the mentoring program. And she was like, hey, I'd love to come back and speak to the students and share this with them. And in our talks, she mentioned this conference called FinCon. And I said, what's FinCon? What is that? Like, I've never heard of it. What is FinCon? And she said, I just left Texas. They had FinCon there. They're going to have it in Orlando the next year. And you need to come. We need to bring a group of students with us. And so that's what we did. This is my first time coming. And we brought a group of students with us. And I had no idea what it was going to be about. But it was one of the best decisions I could ever make because I was able to meet people like you all and meet so many other people in this space who are doing it at a higher level. There were people who are just starting out. There were people who have been doing it for a while. And that was one of the things that built my confidence to know that it's okay to venture out and pursue your dreams. It's okay to move the needle in your favor and not be afraid, because that fear was the thing that stuck with me. Because I got fired so many years prior, I was like, I'm never going to venture out and become an entrepreneur, never do anything myself. And so little by little, I would do things and get some money, get some profits, and put it in an account. And then just save it for a rainy day or invest it. And then I started doing that, and I started getting more and more opportunities. And one day I woke up and I said, you know what? Let me do this. Let me take a leap of faith and let me do this. And I took some leave. I took some time just to be by myself, just to see how it would be for me to be able to spend the day to pursue my dreams, write out my vision, write out my goals, and really push through and do it. Not knowing the outcome, but let me just dream a little bit, because there's so many things from day to day that want to wipe our dreams away. They want to take away our vision and say, you can't do that. But you all know, you through your own experiences and through the people you've interviewed and spoke with, you know that anything is possible. So I think just daily taking action at it, continuing to dream, is what propelled me to continue to be doing this to this day.
I'm not an entrepreneur, but I've had the day job of being an emergency doctor for 31 years now. A couple of years ago, we started this. The creativity bug lit my fire. I mean, it was like a right brain thing. And I'm like, okay, this gives me purpose, meaning, identity out of this little bit stale, it become a little bit boring. And we haven't transitioned to entrepreneurship in a big way, but I encourage all of our audience to exercise their creative muscles. It helps you with the journey at the very least, whether it's a hobby, a side hustle. But you know what? We got only a little bit of time left. We got in a half an hour, we have to tell people how to pay for college and end up with no debt. And you are the counselor. First, tell us about the problem. Student loans are hanging over everybody's head. You had one, you had to pay it off. We're seeing late starters carry loans into their 50s and even into retirement. We have a 50-year mortgage. Everything's getting stretched out. How do we take care of this issue on the front end? How do we graduate debt-free? But first, how big is this problem now?
Yes, it's a major problem. We're close to $1.8 trillion in student loan debt nationally. which is huge. That is major. And so what we want to do is, like you said, we want to get in front of it. We want to be more proactive versus reactive, because everybody thinks that the only way to get a college education is by taking out student loans. But this is far from the truth. There are so many students from all walks of life who are going to school and getting a higher education, getting a college degree, debt free. And even if they do have to, they don't get the full scholarships and other things that we'll talk about in a second, they're able to manage it through their finances, either through a payment plan or things like that. But student loans, a lot of times people look at that as the first resort versus the last resort. And so I definitely want to share some of the strategies that we can do. Even if you have a child that's 13 years old, there are strategies on you can do with them to get college credits even now before they even get into high school.
Well, other of the metrics that we want to share are the fact that there's 42.5 million loan borrowers. That's how big it is. And then the average balance per borrower is 40,000. It's unbelievable. And then you come out with a job that's paying 50 or 60, say, and start, and you got as much loans as in your salary. And that's intimidating. I mean, I didn't have this problem back in the day with med school and college because it was much cheaper. The inflation here has been unbelievable. And people are saying, maybe I don't need this education. Maybe I can hustle, learn everything on YouTube, become an influencer or whatever. And maybe it's not of value because they're not keeping up with the needs of the economy and the tools that you need to come out of school and start at a higher salary so that you can boost it more quickly. So anyway, that's the magnitude of the problem. What's your foundation and strategy for dealing with this?
There are three different levels, right? I call it the debt-free degree triangle, right? So in essence, it's about finding the money, budgeting or managing that money, and then growing the money, right? And so the foundation, especially when we're talking about school, is scholarships, right? Or putting away money such as in tax-deferred plans, such as like a 529, a college savings plan, or putting that money where it's tax-deferred to pay for college expenses. And even if your child gets a full ride, they get full scholarships, you can use it for private school, you can use it for college cost, right? Anything that's in the cost of attendance, they have those different line items under cost of attendance, you can use it toward those things as well. So there are a number of things, and you can research it and look at all the different things that a 529 can handle. And even if it's not just your child, or you can use it even for your grandchild, right? And so these things can impact different generations, if you will.
Yeah, I got the grandchild. So she's barely a month old and already started a 529 because I think it's even more advantageous to have the 529 in the grandparents or the non-parent individual, and then it won't count for FAFSA. But we're going to have a 529 expert on here. But thank you for mentioning that, because I think that's a piece that definitely fits into this whole, how do we get out of college debt free?
What happens is people apply to college and they start thinking about it. I think you advocate to starting earlier with this scholarship process, and there are platforms that people can use and strategies that people can use and get the money going sooner so that you know, okay, I could apply to this level school, and because the money's going to roll in, and I could have reach schools and still afford them. So what are the key platforms you recommend parents start looking into?
Yes, even before we get into the scholarships, let me share with your audience ways that their child can go to college and get college credits. And we're not even talking about scholarships yet, how they can get college credits for free. So there's two ways, especially when we're talking about high schoolers. There's a program called dual enrollment. Many high schools participate in dual enrollment. Dual enrollment allows the child, while they're in high school, to get college credits. Many high schools, especially public schools, partner with local colleges such as the state or community colleges in their area where that child can get college credits while they're still in high school, and they can get them absolutely for free. There's another program called CLEP, College Level Examination Program. With the CLEP program, you can start as early as 13 years old and get college credits as early as 13. So the way you do that is you just Google your college's name, type in the word CLEP next to it, and hit search. Then you'll be able to see, number one, if that college participates in the CLEP program, and number two, how many CLEP credits they accept. So many people have heard of the SAT test, right? SAT program, that's administered by College Board. Another program that College Board administers is the CLEP program. So it's a legitimate program, and this is a way that once you take the test and you pass it, most of the times with a 50 or above, then it ends up going on your college transcript and you get credit for that course. So that's two ways you can get it. There's one student that's actually local. She actually earned her associate's degree, her 2-year college degree, 2 weeks before she earned her high school diploma. So she was able to earn a 2-year degree and she was able to get it before she graduated high school. So look up the school. And here's another thing. Most CLEP exams are around $97, but here's how you can take all the CLEP exams for free. There are schools that you can have no limit, unlimited amount of CLEP exams you can take. And what this means is if you're proficient in an area, you can sit for the test and then get college credit for it. You can go to modernstates.org. That's a nonprofit, and they'll pay for up to 8 of these CLEP exams for absolutely free. They have the practice exams on there. They have real professors that are teaching the material. They have the resources, and you can take the practice tests as many times as you want. But after you pass with a 70 or above, they'll give you a voucher that you can use with College Board and take the exam for free. And this is how students are knocking out 1 year to 2 years of education before they even step foot out of high school. So definitely do that.
My nieces did the dual enrollment. And so they go to college with credits. You can get credits for your AP courses if that's in your wheelhouse. And so you can shave a year or more off your college education. I mean, as a parent, I found that the first 2 years with the standard classes, you can do that almost anywhere. The real advantage of college is the last 2 years, the third and the fourth year, when the real skills come in. You can hack this. We had Em on our show where she hacked it and got out of school in 3.5 years, and that shaves significant dollars off your degree. And you can go to community college for 2 years and transfer. And community college can be free, for example, in Tennessee with the Hope scholarships. And so you're only paying for 2 years of, say, your state college, and you're getting out with very little loans at best. You got to keep that burden down if you're going to have to do that, or your parents may be able to afford it. People forget this and they go, oh, I went to dream school. And you got to look at this prospectively, strategically from a hacking standpoint before you even look at the money.
Absolutely. And you can always transfer to some of these other schools that you want to attend. You don't have to spend the whole 4 years there, especially if it's going to be coming down to finances. Do what's smart. They can always get that 4-year degree from the school that they want to, and they can start off somewhere else. They don't have to spend all 4 years there. And here's some of the resources, right? And so the first thing you want to do is you want to Google your school, type in the word scholarships after, and it will take you right to that institution's scholarship page. And what they'll do is they'll list all the institutional scholarships they have, especially if they're an incoming freshman. If they're incoming freshmen, they have certain scholarships set aside for incoming freshmen, and then they have it for the continuing students otherwise. They also have all the different alumni organizations and everything else that's tied to that one institution. That way the competition pool is much smaller. And now you're eligible a lot of times with one application. Many schools use what they call Scholarship Universe, where they fill out their profile information, and then it applies them to all the different scholarships that they're eligible for that institution. Now, while we're talking about low competition, I like to say we need to apply for those LLC scholarships, those local and low competition scholarships. And what we do is most cities, I haven't found a city that doesn't have one, or at least one in the area, but most cities have what they call community foundations. If you type in your city community foundation and the word scholarships afterward, it'll take you to that scholarship page for that community foundation. And many times they have scholarships, especially for those high school juniors and seniors that are getting ready to graduate high school. They have scholarship dollars set aside from the local organizations, nonprofits, et cetera, that the foundation will fund. Here's the thing. Most of the time, those departments, the scholarship department within the foundation has a representative. I always tell people it's not what you know or who you know, but who knows you. And so if that person knows you and your child, and they know what your goals are, they know what school you're going to, they know what your major is, now you have other people who are vested in your success. And every time a new scholarship opportunity comes across their desk that you're eligible for, guess who they're going to call? They're going to call you. So those are your local. A lot of times people focus on the national scholarships, which are great, but that should be icing on the cake. You want to make sure you get that low-hanging fruit first. Go to the institutional scholarships of the school you want to go to and get the local and low competition scholarships in your area. Because they did a study years ago and there was over $100 million of unclaimed scholarships. not scholarships that people are applying for and getting denied. There's over $100 million that people just aren't applying for. And I could tell you a number of stories of students who applied for scholarships and they were the only one that applied. Or they didn't apply for scholarships because they didn't think they were going to win. And there might have been 3 people who were supposed to be selected to win the scholarship, but they gave all the scholarships to one person because only one person applied.
Wow, that is wild, Chris. So you just dropped a lot of really good information.
I know, I was like, boom, boom, boom.
Okay, if you don't listen to any of this episode, that was the soundbite. So here are some things that are sticking in my mind as you are going through those things. I think a lot of parents put pressure on themselves to have the money for college, to just pay it like literally out of their bank account. You just gave us so many valuable ways that parents can help their kids pay for college without dipping into their own pocket. And I think we undervalue that. So yeah, we got to think about that. And then also, this happened to me. I went back to school like after I retired at 49. So everything that you mentioned, maybe besides the CLEP, I missed out on that. But everything else that you mentioned, I had to learn about even going back to school as an adult in my late 40s. So if for any late starter that is going through a career transition where they have to go back to school, and mine was a master's degree, you start digging just like Chris said. So it could apply to you, your kids, your grandkids, where you can find money without pulling out your own bank account.
What I'm learning from you, Chris, is there's college level, there's city level, probably county level, then state level, and the competition probably goes up, and the states will have things too that people may have heard about. What are some of the national level things that people do? I see that there's something called raise.me, Scholly or Schooly, FastWeb. So where is there a clearinghouse? And kids can have passions. Say you're a horse rider or you work with disabled kids walking with horses. There's probably an organization that will fund you to help you just because, you know what, I'm involved with this. So give us some other examples of national or niche scholarships.
Absolutely. So there's so many, and I'll talk about some of the ones that I personally work with that have been vetted, or these are legit websites or platforms. The first thing you want to do is, and you can create it however you want to, but have a spreadsheet, right? Have a spreadsheet that's going to keep all of the scholarships that you find on these different platforms organized in one place. So instead of going to this platform and this platform, now you'll have everything in one place so it's organized and it's not overwhelming. One of the websites that you mentioned was raise.me. So this allows your student to be able to earn micro scholarships for things that they're already doing. So there are several partner universities on the website or on the platform that will issue out $250, $500, $1,000 scholarships to certain individuals if they pass a Spanish test, right? Or if they're part of their debate club, or if they're in the band, or if they're on the track team, or if they're doing certain things that they're already doing in school, they'll already get micro scholarship commitments from that. You also have JLV College Counseling has it separated by gender, by minority scholarships, merit-based scholarships. They have it for any type of category that you could think of, they have them broken up on there. The Department of Labor has a scholarship tool with over 10,000 scholarships on their website. And you can filter it there too. So if you just type in Department of Labor Scholarship Search Tool, it'll pull up. College Board. Remember we talked about the SAT and CLEP? College Board has their own scholarship search tool. Another one is Scholly. Scholly was just acquired by Sallie Mae. Christopher Gray, he ended up founding that. And he ended up being able to do an exit and sold it to Sallie Mae. But that's another one. You have Going Merry, Merry. Going Merry is another platform. You have Scholarship Owl, like the bird, Scholarship Owl. And while I'm speaking about these platforms, what you want to do is you want to filter them by date and apply for everything. Most of the scholarships you apply for, you will get denied. Let me repeat that. Most of the scholarships you apply for, you will get denied. And why do I say that? I say that so it can give you some perspective and you won't be discouraged after you apply for 5 scholarships and get told no on all of them. When I work with students, I tell them it's a marathon and you have to be willing to apply for at least 100 scholarships over time. And you need to apply for 10 times the amount you need. So in a year's time, let's say tuition and fees and the cost of education for your school costs $40,000 a year, then you need to apply for $400,000 a year because you want the numbers and the law of averages and the law of large numbers to work in your favor. So even if 90% of those scholarships tell you no and you only have a 10% success rate, guess what? You have enough money to pay for college. And if you're on a time constraint, one of the things we implement is a 2 a day. Once you have your 5 essential essays down, which we might have time to mention, but once you have your 5 essential essays down, all you have to do is modify those 5 or wash, rinse, and repeat those same essays. That way you're not trying to figure out, what am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? What am I going to write about? You already have them done. They're in the cloud. They're in Google Drive. So now all you have to do is just copy, paste, tweak a few things, hit send, and no more than 30 minutes can you go ahead and send that essay off.
You recommend too, because this is a way that the students can have skin in the game. And this is not the parents doing it. This is the students saying, you know what? I want to do this. This is my goal. And in some ways, rather than working at the 7-Eleven, this is a job where you have a higher rate of return, where if you're doing 2 scholarships a day, I think you say, that gets you to 100 or at least something like that. And my sister and her twins, they worked with you, they got your book, and they did this. And it made a difference. And it gives them a sense of accomplishment in this job, and they're participating. This is a big time lemonade stand. This is not small dollars. All right, Jackie, you have a story to tell. You checked out our sponsor, The Alloy Market, with a little gold bar that you sold them. How did that work out for you?
That's right, Bill. The short answer is it worked out great. I was really kind of surprised at how seamless the process was. I just ordered the kit online. They had it to me within days. I put the gold in the package, mailed it out, and almost instantly they notified me it was on the way. They told me when they received it, and they finally gave me a quote. And do you know how much I got for it?
No, Jackie, how much you get?
Well, I got $285, and you know where that's going. That is going in my new grandbaby's 529 plan, and I was, again, very surprised at how seamless the process was.
All right, that's thealloymarket.com. You can declutter this season with your gold, silver, and platinum. Where do we go, Jackie?
Yeah, and here's a bonus. If what you send in is worth more than $199, you will get a $15 bonus. Just enter the code CUTOFI15 and get your bonus.
Tell us a couple of success stories, because you have some whoppers and then there's the average success story, so that people realize this is possible.
Absolutely. One of my students, when I first started my coaching program, I have a team of coaches that work with students. One of the students we started working with, she ended up with over $500,000 worth of scholarships. Matter of fact, one of the coaches, Nia Grant, she won over $1 million of scholarships. So she won over $1 million in scholarships. And when she graduated college, she graduated from Clemson, she graduated with a 6-figure net worth. So she was able to buy a brand new home after she graduated, and she was able to get so much in scholarship refunds to where she was able to cover her housing with the refunds. And she had enough from the scholarship refunds and paid internships where she had a 6-figure net worth when she graduated college. Taylor, we didn't start working together until the end of her sophomore year in college. Because some parents think that, oh, I missed that window of opportunity as a junior and senior in high school. Most of the students that I initially worked with, I was still working in higher ed. So the only students I could work with were already in college. And so one of the scholarships she applied for, which I highly recommend every student, if a student is passionate about something, if they're doing something of great impact or plan to do something of great impact, there's no essay required and there's no GPA requirement. You just do a 2-minute video and submit it, and you can get either $5,000, $10,000, or $25,000 per year with the scholarship. It's called the Taco Bell Live Más Scholarship. And it's the great organization, and it's something amazing for young people. I've been blessed and fortunate to be able to go out to their annual conference during the summer and work with these students hands-on. So I've seen the hundreds of students, almost 400 students every year come out to this thing called Summer of Connections where they get it. But going back to Taylor, she didn't think she was going to win it because she didn't have that quote unquote sob story or story where she felt like she would stand out. And so we just went through a series of questions, and she realized that she's gone through challenges just like anybody else has gone through challenges. She's overcome those challenges and become more resilient and gone through the adversity to end up better than where she was before. And she's done some things that impact. And then she was able to win that scholarship for $10,000, not once, but 2 years back to back. And she didn't think she could win it in the first place. So that was $20,000 for 4 minutes worth of video. So if your children are on TikTok or Instagram or doing all these social media posts, why don't they use that skill and talent for good and get this scholarship where they could just submit a video and get it? I always recommend people do it during winter break while they're on break.
So guess what? That's $5,000 an hour. For real. I mean, no, a minute.
A minute. I was about to say $5,000 a minute.
Yeah, you'll never get paid more than that. You're lucky to earn $5,000 in a summer. Just think about that, folks. A TikTok video. This is hip hop school finance. I didn't even know about that. Jackie, did you?
I did not. And you were mentioning this time window. I'd love to hear a little bit more about like when people are coming to you and what are the important windows to know about? You mentioned one for this scholarship. Is that typical?
Yes, so that window is typical. That scholarship itself is the same deadline and same window of opportunity every year. And then especially during your senior year in high school, you have scholarships such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Millennium Foundation Scholarship, and that will pay for up to $1 million for anywhere you want to go. So they just say $1 million because they know that'll cover wherever you want to go over the next 4 years. Matter of fact, Nia Grant, the coach I was telling you about, she actually won that scholarship. So that's one you can do your senior year. You have the Coca-Cola scholarship. Coca-Cola scholarship will pay you $25,000 or up to $50,000 for that scholarship. You have the Dell scholarship. You have so many different scholarships, these national scholarships that will award multiple students. And a lot of times that window is in the fall. Most of the local and low competition community foundation scholarships that we mentioned earlier are usually in the spring. So knock out a lot of those national scholarships, focus on your early decision, because early decisions usually end right around October, November of every year. So if your child is a rising senior, make sure that you're looking out for those dates, because they'll put aside most of those scholarship dollars for your student if you know for a fact that's where they want to go and that's where they're going to go. If not, no need to rush. Choose wisely and wait until the spring to make that decision, especially if you're taking some of these standardized tests like the ACT or SAT.
Yeah, I mean, think about it, guys. The other things you can do, all these hacks is, okay, say you work during school. You may volunteer, but you work during school and you can put that money towards it. You may work during the summer, but I would recommend to kids to work in an internship, a paid internship that you think might be your profession, because that's your key to a job out of college. They're having a hard time now with AI and workforce issues, getting a job right out of college. It's not a small deal. And you got to build the skills in college. You got to network with the jobs. So earn money, connect with people, and learn the tools in the school. Education is a multifaceted stool upon which you stand. It's not just one thing you do. I mean, you can goof off for the summer, but you're losing an opportunity, right, Chris?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because a lot of times when you graduate, they're not asking you for your transcript in the job interview. They're saying, what have you done? What can you do to impact our organization? What can you do for our company? Right? And you're like, I got this straight A average. I can do that for you, right? But then when you have an internship, and for those that don't understand what an internship is, it's actually getting that real world or professional experience or getting experience in a professional environment. And when you get in that job, don't just stick to the bare minimum. Don't just stick to what your task is. You know what they say, other duties as assigned? Look for the work. My dad used to tell me all the time, look for the work. Look at different ways where you can support individuals within that organization. So when you leave that internship, everyone was impacted by your presence and they're waiting for you to join their company as a full-time employee. So make sure that you do whatever you can to help that organization as much as you can. Learn from everybody, learn from every position, because here's another thing. Here's the flip side of that coin. Let's say that you thought you wanted to go into that field and then you're spending a full 8-hour shift for a whole summer and you realize, I do not want to do this for the rest of my life. You find out really quickly in the internship versus working somewhere and then having to quit or getting fired to the worst case scenario. But now with the internship, it was for a period of time. And now you know whether or not you want to pursue that or you want to go in a different direction.
Well, if you hustle and work hard and provide more value than they expect as an intern and are curious, all of a sudden, even if you don't like the job, you have the best recommendation. If you're a problem solver instead of a problem creator or just a placater where you're doing the basics, but a problem solver that's curious, creative, that's going to carry over to whatever job, even if it's not the one that you want to do. Right, Jackie?
Yeah, for sure. I had my internship. I wanted to be a news broadcaster. I interned at a TV station when I was younger. But so, Chris, along the lines of an internship and that looking good when you're applying for college scholarships, what about like community service and things like that? How much does that really weigh into it?
Oh man, like I was mentioning before. So let me just quickly mention the different 5 essential essays that you'll need and why community service is so important. So the first essay that you'll want to have is what I call the rags to riches essay. Your rags to riches essay talks about some type of obstacle or challenge that you were faced with and how you were able to overcome it. Any type of, this is how it was before. Despite this, I was able to succeed. Despite this, I was able to overcome. Because when that shows organizations or individuals over these scholarship committees, it shows them your resilience. It shows them that if we support you with these scholarship dollars, you're not going to drop out, but you're going to represent yourself well, and you're going to represent us well, because we're going to broadcast that we gave this scholarship to XYZ individual. And because of that, all eyes are going to be on you, and we want you to make yourself look good and make us look good. So your rags to riches. Number 2, your impact/leadership. This goes along with that community service. Some scholarships are saying, what type of impact have you made? What type of way have you supported your community or a cause? Or what type of future impact do you plan on making? So this is where that community service comes in line. Number 3 is, how will the money help you? Why do you need the money? Or what would you do with the money essay? So they say, if we give you $20,000, why should we choose you? Then you could say, oh, this is the reason why I need it. Because some people may have certain things in place, but they have a large amount of medical bills, right? Because of a certain circumstance or certain condition. And now, because of these medical bills that the parents have had to pay for, they don't have enough funds to pay for college. And so now you can explain that this is why I need the money. Number 4, your college/career essay. Why are you getting into this field? Why do you want to get into this field in the first place? Don't just say to make a lot of money, like really paint the picture. There was one student, I'll tell this quick story, 30-second story of one of my students. She wanted to become a nurse. I asked her, why do you want to become a nurse? My mom, she works at the hospital and she works at the front desk. And I just thought I'd work in the hospital to be a nurse. I said, okay. And then I said, do you think that is a compelling story for people to want to support your dream? She said, probably not. I said, let me ask you a question. Were you ever hospitalized? Were you ever in an emergency room or anything like that? She said, yeah, I was in a major car accident. I said, were you scared? Were you anxious? Were you nervous? She said, all the above. She said, I was shaking. I was fearful for my life. And when I got into the emergency room, there was one calming voice. A lady put her hand on my hand and let me know that everything was going to be all right. And it was my nurse, Sally. And that is the reason, now that I think about it, why I want to become a nurse, because I want to be able to do that for others who are in that same scenario.
Oh, you're good.
I said, now you see. I said, you see the difference?
I say, hell yeah to that.
Now she's showing impact, she's showing empathy, and she's showing why she really wants it. So now when the committee is looking through a list of 100 possibilities, they might not remember her name, but they'll remember her story. I always tell the students, facts tell, stories sell. And your story will be remembered a year from now, 5 years from now. You can remember that same scenario before you remember anyone else's. And then the last essay is what I call the wildcard essay. These are those scholarship prompts that are different, but you see them over and over again. One of the examples I like to use is, give us the importance of driver safety. Here's a hack. If you go to Google and type in driver safety scholarship law firm, what will happen is Google will show you over 100 different law firms or auto injury attorneys from across the country that are using that same prompt. Give us the importance of driver safety. You could do one essay for it, and apply it to 100 different auto injury attorneys, because a lot of them are open nationally and it's not just to local students. So those are your 5 essential essays. Put those in the cloud, and now you've taken up most of the time-consuming activities when it comes to applying for scholarships. And then it doesn't become another job or a burden or a task. It's something that's just a way of life. You brush your teeth in the morning, hopefully, you go ahead and write some essays in the same vein.
You got to make your bed too. I mean, a lot of teenagers, what was that Navy admiral that said, if you make your bed every morning, you've accomplished one thing. And if the day is really crappy, you'll come home to a made bed. That was a very important speech. It's very popular. So these are the basic things and tasks and habits. We're creating healthy habits.
I was going to ask you, Chris, this is technical, but are schools and scholarship programs, are they looking for AI? Do they have warnings about using AI? Because obviously that's the main tech tool now that a lot of people are using. And I'm sure in applying for scholarships and writing those essays, they might just go to ChatGPT and put something in. Is that an issue? And how is that played into the whole scholarship essays?
Excellent question. So yes, most of the scholarship essays, they're scanning them to see if students use AI, right? A lot of the AI platforms such as OpenAI or ChatGPT, they won't even allow you to put those prompts in there saying you're applying for a scholarship. Like initially, when it first was available to the public, people could put that in. They'll put down the scholarship prompt and they'll say, hey, this is information about me, write a scholarship essay for me. But now it won't even allow you to do that. But here's a way that you can use AI in your favor when it comes to scholarship writing. Say, create some bullets for me about the things you know about me pertaining to this scholarship. Is this scholarship something that I'm eligible to write about? Give me some bullet points or some ideas on things that I can write about. So it's not writing it for you, but it's giving you ideas. It's giving you those idea prompts to say, oh, I did have that situation. And then you can use AI to ask you a series of 20 to 50 questions that can help it learn more about you, so that when you're applying for scholarships, now you know what to talk about. So now you're not going totally in the dark, but now you already have an idea generator that can help you when writing these scholarship essays.
I find AI is really good if you ask a good question and the prompting, just generate ideas. Don't do the work, but give me a structure that I can operate from. And then you got to trust but verify, because you might be getting crappy information. But this is a little overwhelming, Chris. You have dropped so many resources. People are going to have to listen to this on half speed. Take note. But you've got a book. Is a lot of this in the book? And people kind of say, okay, I'll look through the transcript of this podcast. And we encourage people to look at the show notes, look at the transcripts, but it's all housed in a book, I hope.
Yes, it is. It is. It's called Financial Literacy 101 for College Students. So you can find it on Amazon. If you're an organization that wants to buy it in bulk, I have bulk discounts. So you can just reach out to me individually and I can get that for you. And I can share my information with you. You can probably put in the notes, show notes, or however you want to do it. Or if you want to find me on Instagram, I'm at the Finlit Guy, the FINLITGUY. That's where I spend most of my time, either there or LinkedIn, but most of my time is spent on Instagram. But yeah, you can just say you found me on the show. And what I'll do is I will let all your listeners get the ebook for free. How about that? You all can get the ebook for free. If you just want to get it in bulk, of course, I'll give it to you, the physical books in bulk discount. But if you want the ebook to go through, then all your listeners will have access to the ebook.
Look at that. They get a Benny. They get a Great. There was one program. We get the first information. You're bringing this out. Tell us a little bit about what's next for Chris Corinthian, the new project.
Yes, so this is the first time I'm telling anybody about what I'm getting ready to do. So this is hot news. So initially, I would only be able to work, my coaching team and myself would work with individuals, clients individually, and then we would do some group coaching, small group coaching stuff. But now we're going to make all this information. We're building a brand new community. So it's in the works. Be on the lookout. And it's an extension of our Debt-Free Degree Academy, but we're going to make it available to so many others at a lower cost. And then if they do want that one-on-one help, there's opportunities to work with us with that. But most of the information where you could just take the information and run with it and do it on your own. and have a supporting community where people are having success stories, and all of that will be found all in one place in the community. So that will be coming out very soon, if it's not already out by the time you listen to this interview.
So you can listen to this podcast on half speed, and that's your jumping off point. You can get the book, and then you can work with Chris or his partners in his organization one-on-one to help you with this, and do it early, right? And then you can go to school and learn this too at a lower cost with a membership. And you don't have to be the academic jock. You don't have to be a straight A student. You can be a B or a C student and access scholarships. Everybody is unique. And people think, oh no, this is out of reach for me. I can't do this. And they stick their head in the sand and they don't explore. This can be for the average student, right?
Yes, absolutely. Anybody and everybody can implement these strategies. And there are so many strategies we went over in this interview. Just pick one, use it, and then go on to the next one.
Awesome. So FinLit Guy on Instagram. Your book is Financial Literacy 101 for college students. You're going to give us the special ebook there, but if you want the printed copy or bulk copies, we'll tell you how to get that. But this has been extraordinary. And it is one of those reference episodes that our audience will want to refer back again and again. I think the book would be a great gift to give to a parent or even someone that you know that's in high school. Just so much valuable information, and it has been way too long to have you on, but we have you now, and thank you for sharing all that great information. So Bill, what you got, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, all parents of juniors should buy this book. Get started early because it's a lot of information to digest. And just like financial literacy, it can be overwhelming at first. And you said develop your strategies, develop your essays, develop your system, your spreadsheet. You can almost automate this, and you're going to earn $5,000 a minute. It's incredible. And this can help you avoid a retirement buster. This can help you avoid being a late starter when you're taking on this with 529s or cash flow, and say you can't do the 529 and you feel like you're relying on the school. Just help me. I can't help myself, but you can. And you've proven it today. This has been so fun, so exciting, so action and information packed. We could talk for hours, and we're going to have to bring you back to do it again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love talk. You can tell I'm passionate about this subject, so I would love to. Anytime, any day, I am here.
All right, Chris. Thank you for joining us on Catching Up to 5. Jackie, we'll see you next week for another action-packed episode.
So, Bill, as you know, we cannot do this show without our amazing staff and the people that help us put this on. Our editor is Fritz Brazard. We love them, and they keep us going.
Yeah, Jackie, I mean, this show wouldn't have the quality it has without our folks, our peeps. And we'd also like to give you a few calls to action for the show. We love our community, and we hope you love us back. If you would like to support the show and our mission to help late starters, you can do that at Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform that allows you to make a donation. The link is in the show notes and on the website.
Check out the show notes for resources mentioned in today's show. Also, head on over to our website at catchinguptofy.com and check out our vetted resources, partners, and affiliates for discounts and their services, because we love sharing great deals.
Please share the show with others and head on over to our Facebook community to help us grow. If you prefer video, head on over to YouTube and watch the show there. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Catching Up to 5. We would appreciate it if you could also leave us a 5-star review to help our message reach others.
And while we are financial educators that love to teach, remember that our content is for general education and information purposes only. We are not providing financial, legal, or tax advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making important decisions.
So, Jackie, we'll see our audience next time on Catching Up to 5. Cheers.